Een goede middag, dames en heren. Hiphophuis, hebben we er een beetje zin in? Alright. Mijn naam is Gary Mendes, ik ben jullie host moderator voor de middag. Ik heb hier nu 2 microfoons in mijn hand. Het is een klein beetje onhandig, ik zet eentje heel even weg. Zo. Jullie weten waarom jullie hier zijn? Ja? Of niet soms? Ja toch? Nogmaals, hebben we er een beetje zin in? Wow! Ik ga niet te veel zeggen. Knowledge reigning supreme, all the way from the Bronx. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together, make some noise for the one and only KRS. Yeah.
You know, wait a minute, let me just go ahead and do it. Let me get right to work. I don't know how many of you in here have seen this particular type of lecture before, and I'm kind of confused as to how I should begin, because I was here about 2 years ago, and it was wonderful. But 2 years ago, you know, usually when I come to speak like this, whatever it is that is the latest fact on my head is what I usually speak about. In this instance, I'm not sure if I need to start with the basics regarding hip hop and then go into the deeper part of the conversation. The deeper part of the conversation is some of the questions that I was given. I asked just for some basic questions like, you know, what's on the minds, what's on your minds, or what's on the minds of hip hop in this region of the world. It's important for me to listen as well as to speak. So part of this has to do with some new information regarding hip hop, but I don't know how far back I need to go. Let me just ask a few questions. Are we familiar with Kool Herc, DJ?
Yeah.
We are familiar. Africa Bambaataa as well.
Yes.
Are we familiar with his work? Okay. Grandmaster Flash.
Yeah.
We are familiar with his work.
Yes. Crossfaded.
Run DMC. Yeah. Russell Simmons, Def Jam. Are we familiar with their work? Okay, this is gonna save us a lot of time. This is gonna save us a lot of time. The reason I start there is because this is the first half that if you don't really understand who Kool Herc is, who Bam is, who Flash is, even the whole Sugar Hill Records label, Def Jam Records label, going into my era, sort of 1986, with the Juice Crew, MC Shan, you got Biz Markie, and others like Heavy D, Salt and Pepper, moving even further, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy as well. All of this, we are skipping over. I'd like to start you at about 1994 hip hop. And like I said, you have to be able to have understood the years, the 20 years before that, 74, 84, 94. You have to understand 74 to 94 to even get what I'm about to say. So here it goes. So we've been doing some studying on hip hop in 1994. Why do I bring up 1994? Because a lot of what we were doing in 94 is now coming into fruition today. Hip hop moves in 10-year intervals. We figured out from 61 to 71, 71 to 81, 81 to 91, 91, 2001, 2011, 2021, and so on. Hip hop moves in 10 years. Every 10 years, something dramatic goes on that affects the way in which we think about hip hop. When I say hip hop, can I write on this? This is some of you probably have seen this already, but I gotta start here. Let me go this way. So you might have already seen me explain this, but it's important to put this back up real quick to just go deeper into what it is we're talking about. What I'm giving you today is the latest facts on hip hop. In 1994, I realized that I am hip hop, that I wasn't just doing it, but that I was actually it. That when I step into the room, hip hop comes into the room as well. Now, why is this important? Because what we're looking for is a higher quality of life, real life. When you talk about culture, you're talking about a quality of life. And so, what we're looking for in 94, really from 74, 84, but in 94, my brain just said, pow, and I said, I am hip hop. I'm not doing it anymore, I am it. This changed my consciousness to be able to see my world through the paradigm of hip hop. Let me show you what that means. Number one, the brain cannot see its environment without words. The brain has to have a word in order to see things, to notice things. You see things according to your vocabulary. Those with a small vocabulary see very limitedly. They have no words. Here's a better example. Let's say an electrician walked into this room, person studying electronics. The electrician walks into the room. The electrician would look at the room and say, okay, these lights are certain kinds of lights. Those wires go with that light. This beam has this, and I know what type of power is going through that. I can see by the look of the ceiling that this is called a 223 lamp as opposed to a ABC lamp. All this language the electrician would have walking right in this room. Now, we wouldn't see all this. We don't notice the electronics in the room because we don't keep words like amps and ohms and watts and that's not on your head every day. So because it's not on your head every day, you walk around amps and ohms and voltages every day, all day, but you don't notice it. You don't notice it because it's not a word that's in your head every day. The words that are in your head every day is what you notice. So when you start talking about culture for real, a new way of life, a new way of seeing life, you have to come up with new words. This is what hip hop starts out as, a new word. That word, the government didn't create. 1994, I realized I am hip hop. But what did that mean to African Americans? Woo! What did that mean to black? What did that mean to Africa? What did that mean to, I am hip hop. Now take a look at that. If I am hip hop, now when I look at myself, I don't see a black man. I see hip hop. In fact, you could even say, yes, I know what it means to be black. I know exactly what it means. But when I look at my skin color, I see brown. No white person on the planet looks like this. No one. If white people look like this, they'd be dead. No, this is not the color of a live human being. You can look around, this is black. That's black. Put my hand up against this, it does not match. We even have people called red people, yellow people. If this is the words that are in your head to define humanity, this is what you're going to see. Whatever, I'm a black man. Why? Who told you that? Where did that come from? I'm a white man, I'm this, who told you this? Where did it come from? What? Did you make the decision to be all of this? Or were you just born into this condition? Well, the first thing we realized with the creation of hip hop is that when you have a new word, you have a new reality. And you can define that reality based on any way you want it to be. This is mental freedom. The government the American government gave us the title African American. They had Afro-American, Negro, freedman, all this stuff, but all titles given. This is the one we came up for ourselves. Hip hop. The mainstream said, what is that? What is hip hop? Oh, it's breaking. I'm seeing breaking. You mean to destroy something to break? No, breaking. And you know, MCing. What you don't MC, that's called Masters of Service. No, not M.C. The EMCE. New words create new realities. Hip hop created its own reality. This is how we got free in the 70s. Mainstream American pop culture didn't make that word up. They made up words like the Grammys, the Oscar Awards, things that we were shut out from. And as long as we kept talking, yo, I'm doing this record so I can get a Grammy, you were stopped. You were in their matrix. The minute you said, yo, I'm doing this record for my dudes on the corner, you was outside of their matrix and you was somebody else. That's why it's so funny today to see rappers aspire to the mainstream, and hip hop began as a rejection against that. The mainstream wanted nothing to do with us. They kept saying every year, you ain't gonna last for 3 more years. Then another record come out. You ain't gonna last, another movie come out. You ain't gonna last. After a while they stopped saying it. $10 billion later, oh yeah, I guess, yeah. But how did that start? This is the first part I want to bring out. Words create reality. The words you choose to put on your head every day is creating what you actually see. Now, we're not getting into the spiritual part of this, but when you put words like God on your head every day, spirit on your justice, truth, wisdom, but if those were the words swirling around your head every day, you would see that. But this is the first lesson to actually learn. This has nothing to do with spirituality. This is called perception. This is called awareness. And here's where hip hop begins, with awareness. First of all, what is hip hop? Hip hop. Well, we teach that hip hop hip means to know. Hop is a form of movement. Hip means to know. I'm up on it. I know I'm hip to this. Actually, it's from the African language, the Wolof language specifically. It was called hepcat or hippie cat. Hippie cat. Actually, the whole word, it meant to be aware of your environment. But here, when it gets to jazz culture and then down to us, it's hip, meaning to know, to be aware. Ha, movement, springing upward. Intelligence or consciousness, springing upward. Consciousness or movement, awareness, moving. Hip hop. I am hip to my hop. I know why I move. That's what this thing means. Doesn't mean anything else. It's just the word itself, hip hop. I am aware of how I move. Now, if you can understand hip hop like this, you will join in on the consciousness of those that created hip hop. Because a lot of people like to think that hip-hop was a mistake, and it wasn't. Nothing about hip-hop was a mistake. We were all self-aware. What we didn't know was how big it would become, and the twists and the turns that it would take. That we did not know. But in 1973, when Cool Herc came out, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, and started playing music, the breaks of records, we knew what we were up against. First, we was a consciousness. First, we was consciousness. This consciousness became culture. The repeating of this consciousness, our way of thinking, our view of the world, became culture. This culture began to produce products. This is the nature of hip hop as we know it today. Hip hop begins as consciousness. The repeating of the consciousness creates the culture, and the repeating of the culture creates its products. Most people are stuck here with hip hop. They stay only in the products, and you will notice, look at the spelling, H, lowercase HIP, dash lowercase HOP. Notice the spelling. This lowercase hip hop spelling, first of all, this is not a culture. This is not a people. Any culture, at least in English language, if you are speaking of a culture, you spell it with a capital H. If you're speaking about a specific thing, you spell it starting with capital letters. I don't know why magazines and newspapers and so on continue to spell hip hop in lowercase letters when hip hop is a proper noun. So I bring this here just to go forward. I want you to understand this fully before I go any further. The word hip hop itself creates a whole new reality. This is what started for us. We started saying in our mind, hip hop, hip hop, hip hop. What is it? What is it? How do we do this? And we lived it out according to what we thought paradise was. Meaning peace, love, unity, safely having fun. That consciousness turned into breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing. This turns into products. Now stop here. If you can understand that words create reality, and this word created our reality, hip hop created the consciousness creates the culture and then the products. If you can understand that, now understand that this is the formula for global civilization. This is not just a music genre. I don't think you could break gospel down like this, or jazz, or rock and roll. Great musics. But this is where hip hop takes its step beyond that. Because even the rock and roll era that had its own fashion, its own language, never declared themselves a culture. Most of the rock and roll or hippie movement, anti-war movement, free love movement, experimental drug movement, LSD, all of those movements moving in the 60s and 50s, they became the senators, the president, the head of the FBI, the head of Walmart, so on. They all went into the establishment. Hip-hop has held its composure together for 40 years. Anywhere you go on the planet, you say hip-hop, dudes is either gonna look at you with breaking and seeing graffiti or a DJ. Something urban. They're not gonna confuse you with another music genre or even another culture. You say hip hop, they say, oh, you rap. Or you say hip hop, oh, you a b-boy if somebody has more knowledge. Or you do graffiti art. Or you're a DJ, mostly DJs. I say this because if you're still here with hip hop, A lot of the questions about hip-hop's social impact are never going to be answered. A lot of where hip-hop needs to go in order for future hip-hoppers to benefit, it's never going to happen if we stay down here in terms of products. When we start thinking hip-hop and living hip-hop, we'll create the products. Stop here for a minute. This is the problem with Africa in particular. That in the United States, we have this notion that we have to return to our African roots in order to regain all that was lost. Hear what I'm saying? Go back to your African roots to regain all that was lost. But what we do is we go back to the material roots, not the conscious roots. We're still looking for things. And I use Africa as an example. You could really put any culture on it, but I use Africa as an example. We're still looking for the things that are lost in Africa as opposed to the consciousness that was lost in Africa. It was the consciousness that created everything. We shouldn't be looking for things. We should be looking for the mind that created those things. Now, hip-hop, I believe, is the return of that consciousness. Do some research on the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was a real trip. That was a good thing there. But just before the Roman Empire, and I gotta put Rome on you real quick just to bring us back up. The reason I say I bring this out is because this is world culture. Most music genres get stopped right here. Yeah, that's some good music, jazz. That's some good music, blues. Blues was a whole culture. People weren't just singing the blues, that came from somewhere. But the times were not right. You can't even stand up here like this. This right here is Nat Turner in the United States. This is Harriet Tubman. Do some research on these names. This is Frederick Douglass standing up here right now. In the United States, the Klan is coming right through the window shooting at all of us. Because a black man is standing here right now telling you about hip hop. Well, this formula here points to where hip hop is actually going, and that is world culture. All civilizations, I took you back to Rome for this reason. This is how Rome started. This is how the Phoenicians started. All religion starts just like this. Somebody, you could either say somebody got enlightened and then this happened, or you could say somebody started singing and then all this happened. Any direction you want to bring it in. We're keeping hip hop on the level of product, then wondering why the commercial mainstream is getting stronger while the average person is getting weaker. We find, oh man, the commercialism, hip hop is too commercial. No, it's not. There are executives that care about it more than the average person. Why the average person doesn't care much about hip hop? And I say average person, it's hard to say that here in Rotterdam. It's hard to say that here because here I'm actually in a facility dedicated to hip hop. And this is ticklish to me, really, when you really think about it. But where I come from, this is unheard of. In 2015, I mean, I know it's 2014, but it'll be like that in 2015. In 2015, this knowledge that comes out of the United States is ignored by the United States. Adolf Hitler did the same thing. Did the same thing, threw Einstein out the country. And all the great minds that went with Einstein. Imagine, Einstein's already in your country. And because of your racism and hatred, you throw the best of your minds out of the country. We've seen it before. I'm just giving you historical. Hip-hop is a world civilization. We're coming back. Those that could really understand this, now we're going to talk about real life. How does this apply to real life? One, if you could see hip hop as consciousness first, meaning this word is what I see my world through. Like you gotta ask yourself, what word are you seeing your world through now? Is it working for you? Some people's world, you know, like they say, your worldview works for you. But if your worldview really is not working, and only you can be honest with you inside, I'm offering something way more empowering, and it's called hip hop from this angle. One, words create reality. Adopt the word hip hop, and you'll see a hip hop reality that you can actually take advantage of. This consciousness creates a culture. What are we talking about when we say culture? Lifestyle. Brand new lifestyle. Let me stop here for 1 minute. Hip hop is lifetime employment. Take this in. Hip hop is lifetime employment. There used to be a time where if you said, you went to your parents, you said, I'm gonna be a rap artist. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pursue a career as a rapper. Your parents would say, well, make sure you go to school, just in case your rap career doesn't work out. You got a degree to fall back. And that was wise advice. Now, it's a little different. Now, it's make sure you can rap in case your college degree doesn't work out. No one's gonna say this to you because we're still trapped in this collegiate system. But when you get to your graduation and they give you your receipt, your degree, you're gonna realize at that particular moment what I'm saying right now. I'm giving you knowledge that is 10 years ahead. No one knows it yet. They don't see it yet. But again, I'm living proof of what it is I'm saying to you. There is no school for KRS-One. There's no degree for KRS-One. KRS-One is a consciousness. It's the way I perceive myself. You're not hearing me. Let's go back. Hip hop is lifetime employment. Here's what I'm talking about. Number one, college students. Forget college students. College teachers, professors. We know the teachers don't make much money. At least not in the United States. Teachers don't make anything really, and it's a shame actually. The teachers have to, especially public school teachers, they don't make much of anything, but they gotta come to work every day and educate. Education is the first trade of any trade, is education. And it's them that's not being treated fairly. Okay, having said that, here's hip hop. Take a look at those turntables, right, or those CDJs right there. Now, what if a 50-year-old white Irish math teacher in Brooklyn, teaching math, I'm just pulling somebody out the hat. White Irish woman math teacher in Brooklyn, teaching math in public school in Brooklyn. She's not making nothing, okay? But she's dedicated to her job. I hope she hears what I'm saying right now. If she could somehow invest, if she could somehow become a DJ, this woman would not only supplement her salary, but she'd be able to lift her entire quality of life like that. People look at her, what do you mean? DJing is the easiest of our elements. It's not easy, it's just the easiest. Of our breaking is the hardest. Breaking, b-boy breaking, that is officially the hardest of the elements. But even MCs, it's difficult to do it to MC, but MCs come a dime a dozen. DJs is even easier than that. Graffiti writing, babies do graffiti. Humans do graffiti. Now, of course, some of those pieces that real graph writers be turning out that's a whole different story. That takes skill. Art does take skill. My point is that DJing is the easiest of the hip hop elements. It's about taking someone else's music and playing it. This is the thing with your music. You gotta take someone else's music and play it. And if you can create a mood and a vibe based on 5 records you sling on, suddenly this 50-year-old white woman math teacher in Brooklyn, she's the newest sensation. She's doing Rock the Bells, she's on tour, she's doing Splash, she's doing everything. Why? Because first, this has to change. I'm quite sure this math teacher seen turntables and just said to herself, "Ah, that's not me. Oh, I'll never. Oh no, the person doing it doesn't look like me, so I guess I don't." But that's not hip hop. Hip hop is first, when you get to the culture part of it, anybody can do our elements, because our elements are human skills. They go back to harmonies. These elements are born within people, breaking and seeing graffiti, art, DJing, beatbox. This is innate to humanity. Once people realize this, you don't have to look for an average job every day or slave from week to week. That's what we made hip hop for. We didn't make hip hop for you to work it. To work hip hop. No, that's not what it was made for. Hip hop was made to free you from that. The original word was chill. That was the original word. Why did you invent hip hop? So we could chill? Yeah, chill. That was the word, chill. And chill meant relax. Ease. Sometimes you work so hard, you don't even believe that you can have peace, that you can be at ease. Yes, you can be at ease. But it does take the mastery of one of our elements, breaking, MCing, graffiti, or DJing. I suggest you take up DJing. I was on the phone with a guy named DJ Premier a couple of months back, and he was in China. And I said, "Yo, what you doing in China, man? What's going on?" What's that? He said, "Yo, I'm in Hong Kong right now." Now, this is my friend, the guy named DJ Premier's name is Chris. And we grew up together, we did an album together called Return of the Boom Bap, etc. And this dude is from where I'm from, okay? He's from the streets of New York City. We never dreamed in our lives that we would be in China, okay? But this dude, he's on the phone, "Yo, I'm in China, yo, Hong Kong is crazy. Yo, look at this." He's on the phone. And I'm like, "Yo, so how long you playing?" So, Premier, I mean, he can make anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a night. Just DJing. And and not to put his business in the street, but to really talk truth. Okay, as a DJ, let's say, okay, you're not DJ Premier. You're DJ whoever. 5,000, another country. 5,000 euro to DJ. Okay, now I'm talking to intelligent people in this room, okay? Hip hop is no longer an entertainment pastime. You're gonna have to take it a lot more serious. Because as it grows as a culture, it offers a life. It's not just listening to the music and going, "Yeah, that's hot." No, there's a life in that. If you want to live it out completely, like for instance, those that are studying to be MCs, you say, "Yo, I am the dopest MC out, and I'm gonna have my record out one day." You say, "Yo, I am a DJ. I got a mix that you can't believe. I am a B-boy. I'm a beat girl. Yo, my graph hand is dope." Whatever it is, if you're gonna live it out, this is most important to you. This conversation right here is most important. Remember, words create reality. When you live hip hop, you begin to see the hip hop reality. And it sidesteps all this nonsense that they're pushing out here in the commercial world. Here's the culture. 1, be a DJ. Stop playing games with it. There's real money on that. Real cash on that. That, a good mix, and a photo. I mean, when I was growing up, I guess I still am, but I guess when I was younger, we had a thing called a rotary phone. Y'all don't have these anymore, and I'm looking around like I'm actually gonna see one. But you had to put your finger in the phone and turn the phone, and the thing went back and around like that. Okay? We had to use those phones in order to get heard. This is before telemarketing even. You would call 411. You would call, it was the information. You dial up 411 and say, hey, they say city and state. And you would say, California, Los Angeles. And they would connect you over the phone to whoever is in Los Angeles. I want a radio station, I want to talk to a record store, this, that, and the other. So when we was coming up in the early 80s with music, this is how we had to actually communicate to other places to get heard. We used UPS, in America it's United Partial Post Service, or FedEx there as well. We were using these means as distribution for our music. Why do I bring that up? Because this is going to be the next part of culture, okay? It's the next part of culture. Sometimes the things you don't know are the best things for you when you're dealing with culture. Now, when you're dealing with corporate, you have to know stuff. You have to have information because you're in a competitive mode. But when you're in culture, it's the complete opposite. You're not in a competitive nature. You're in a cooperative nature. And most people mix culture up with corporate. And I just feel I need to say this before we go further about where the money is. The culture is not a corporation. And the corporation is not the culture. You're going to have to navigate between the two because the outside world is corporate, but the inside world is cultural. Most people refer to the analogy between being an MC and a rapper. The MC speaks on behalf of her people. She's a community spokesperson. The rapper speaks on behalf of a corporation. I'm just trying to get this money, rapping. Now, a good MC usually always becomes a rapper. But rappers never become MCs. The MC that is good, or the DJ, or what, I'm using MC. You can put any element to this. The MC that is good usually because they've mastered a certain principle. Meaning that there was a code to the street that the MC mastered. Whatever it was something that was going on in the street, and the MC did it the best, or said it the best, or expressed it the best. The MC then gains the respect of the community. To maintain that respect, the MC speaks on behalf of the community. The rapper tells you all about what he or she is doing. Not much community there. This is me, and I'm the best, and I'm the greatest, and look at me, and here is what I got, this is where I go, these are people I know, this is how I get down, that's the rapper. Sometimes the MC doesn't have enough rapper in him, and the best MCs fall to the wayside. Sometimes the rapper, of course, starting out from like, woke up one morning, watched MTV, picked up the mic and said, yo, I'm gonna rap. That person never has the depth. That person doesn't gain the depth. And what's the depth? You gotta be rejected. You gotta be ripped off. You gotta be betrayed. If this hasn't happened to you already, then you got a long way to go. But if this has happened to you already, you got a short way to go. Some people look at their first rip-off and be like, oh man, I can't go no further. No, that's learn that and keep it moving. That's what wisdom is. Nobody gets wise being good. I'll say it again. No one becomes wise by being good and doing everything right. Nope. You become wise by sinking to the lowest levels of life, hanging with the most treacherous, and somehow surviving to tell the story. See, there's this last part. Somehow surviving to tell the story. Most people don't survive. The wisest people are in the cemetery. But if you manage to survive, that's who everybody wants to hear. And that is what makes an MC. I don't want to hear somebody tell me, say, don't go to prison. Prison is bad. I say, okay, have you ever been to prison? No. I'm just saying. No, I mean, okay, the advice is good, no doubt. The advice is good, but it just doesn't stick you the right, it doesn't hit you culturally. Yo, man, you need to stay out of prison. Why? You been to prison? Dog, look at this. 18 years, dog, don't play with me. Oh, yo, wait a minute. Oh, I didn't mean to say, I didn't. Now you're dealing with the culture. Now somebody tell you, yo, man, you should stop drinking. Well, when did you stop? Well, I really don't drink. Look at the, why? Yo, you should really stop drinking. I've been free for 21 years. I can show you how. That's the dude you want to hear from. So right away, when you're dealing with culture, you're not dealing with corporate. Dealing with culture, you're dealing with wisdom. And to really be in the culture, you gotta go low. You have to not be afraid to get low. This is not high-minded, everything's gonna be good. No, it's not. No, it's not, because for you to have the respect of the culture, for you to live a life of peace and prosperity, you're gonna have to earn it. And of course, my generation couldn't hear the word earn nothing. I know this generation is not trying to hear earn something and earn it. Yeah, earn it. That's what hip hop is all about. That's why the respect comes for those who have earned their position. This is one of the few places, one of the few cultures that you actually have to earn your respect. Every other culture, you can buy your respect. Respect to all other cultures, I'm not dissing. I'm not dissing to nobody. But a lot of cultures, man, 90% of the world cultures today, you can buy your way into them. Or have these cultures tell you whatever you want to hear for a certain amount of money. Hip hop, even though we're the most exploited in the commercial mainstream media, we're the most exploited. Still, on the street level, in the real culture, you can't buy hip hop. Hip hop ain't for sale nowhere on the globe. No, the products are all over the place, but not the culture or the consciousness. No, that's still sacred. That's still a sacred thing, believe it or not. Hip hop is still sacred. I'll get back to that in a minute. Bring it back over to culture. I want to make this point clear. Culture's not corporate. Make up your mind who you want to be. This will help you in your career with hip hop. Make up your mind quick. Are you corporate? Then be that. Be about your money. And straight up, ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. Be about your money. Get a banking degree. Get into your business. But if you claim culture, which is everlasting, culture, everlasting, the inner, being able to speak without words, that thing, the culture, then you're going to have to be with the culture. What does it mean to be with the culture? It means that you're trying to become immortal. The corporate is mortal. The culture is immortal. It never dies. Most of the recording artists, rappers from the 80s that follow the culture, they're the ones getting money today. Those who had huge records and followed the corporate in the 80s and 90s, they're nowhere to be found. You look at who's touring. De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy. Public Enemy shows just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I was just with them in Paris the other day. We was just there. And Public Enemy shows is out of control. These dudes is a grandfathers. Show out of control. Still moving, still talking. Where's the guys that came up in 89? Same year, Fear of a Black Planet comes up, 1992, 93. Where's everybody? I don't want to call nobody name, but just think back to who was the biggest stars in the early 90s, and you can go back to the 80s or whatever. Look at the stars and nowhere to them. Why? Because they weren't immortal. First of all, immortality begins with longevity, at least. At the least, where's your longevity? Well, you want the culture if you want longevity. The culture never dies. Corporations come and go. Culture never dies. Corporations are good though. Get organized real quick, make a fast $2 million, be out. Yeah, that's the corporate. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just temporary. You're gonna get it right now, you're gonna be out. Know that. The record's gonna be hot, you're gonna blaze. Get your movie deal, move over to the clothing line, try to do something because you're finished in 3 years. Culture is immortal. Because the cries of the people never stop. Never. You always have something to write about when you're wedded to your culture. You always have something to be creative about when you're wedded to the culture. I prefer the culture myself from an intellectual point of view, believe that. Because I enjoy the corporate world, I really do. The corporate world is the greatest, just not made for me. I made my mind up years ago. Matter of fact, I took a job at Warner Brothers. That's where I made my mind up at. Warner Brothers, Time Warner, the most corporate company on the planet. There I am running A&R for a Reprise record in Warner Brothers. Expense account, desk, phone, assistant, expense budget, you name it, we had it. But I couldn't rhyme. There's no rhymes, there's no time. I'm up at 9, go to bed at 9, up again at 8, for 9. Wait a minute, what happened to my creativity? What happened to my soul? What happened to the soul? I didn't, what happened to my soul? No, everybody's soul dead in the corporate world. Oh, Chris, get used to it, man. Come on, man, just kill that soul. Yeah. Yeah, just let that soul, I let my soul go 7 years ago, yeah. That kind of talk in the boardroom, where you gotta put your name to stuff that's evil. You gotta sign on to stuff that you know is ridiculous, but you gotta sign on to it. No! Hip-hop frees you from all of that, or at least it did for me. I handed in my resignation. I was at the top of my class, one of the 500 best employees of the year. I had it all, except my soul. So now you have to make a decision. I could never diss Warner Brothers, never. That was the best time of my life. But my soul. I chose my soul. And it worked out for me, really it did. Because of course you go back and everybody got fired from Warner Brothers anyway. The company fell apart, got bought by AOL. It just was a disaster. But my soul. I kept my soul intact. That's why I can stand here before you now and say, yes, you're looking at a man of peace. I feel good about today. Why? Because my soul is alive. I have no records out, no no pop records out, no video. I'm on no cover of magazines, all of that. But I guarantee you the Milky Way will be something to see when we get up in there for the 8th time, by the way. Why do I mention this? I mention this to show you this is not just words. This is real life. And I'm giving you the ingredients to this real life. Those that have ears to hear it. The culture's not corporate, but don't put the corporate down. It's not. It's just it's a manifestation of the culture. In fact. But you got to decide who you are. They have a thing called corporate culture. You may be part of a corporate culture. That may be your community. But don't frown on that. You may be a genius and don't even know it. And can probably help the culture if you just be real with you want to get some money. Somebody else trapped in a job every day, know you ain't supposed to be there, you'd rather quit and pick up the mic forever. You should just do it. That's the culture. But I got 3 kids. I'm the breadwinner of my house. How can I just drop my job and be an MC? That's exactly what you have to do. You ask any of the legendary MCs, DJs, ask any of them, how'd you start? If they really have the time to speak the truth to you, it's gonna start really, really low. It's gonna start really, you're gonna be like, wow, that's what went down? For you to be whoever you are, that's what happened? Yeah, man. And then you gotta ask yourself, one last thing on cultures, I just thought about it. You gotta ask yourself, do I have the courage to be me? Do I have the courage to actually be me? Because that's what it takes. That's what success actually is, especially from a cultural point of view. Corporate, you can be anybody you want. But culture, you're gonna have to be the real you. And if you're afraid of you, it's impossible to be successful in the culture. Well, what does that mean? It means that most people are not themselves because of the consequences that it takes to be yourself. An example, I can't stand the job that I'm on, then quit. I can't quit. Why? The consequences. This school is a waste of time. I'm not learning anything here, drop out. I can't. Why? The consequences. I don't like her. Leave her. I can't. Why? The consequences. This is what's guiding our lives, the consequences. This is why we can't be our real selves, and hip hop speaks right to it. If an angel came right now and said, you want to be an MC, the greatest of all time, I will grant you that, but first I have to show you how you're going to get there. You say, okay, sure, show me how I'm going to get there. You're going to walk outside and get shot in your leg. You won't die, but you're just going to have to take that bullet. What? As you're healing, your house is going to burn down, and you may lose all your pets and animals in the house as well. Word. The question is, with each hardship, the question is, but would you still be you? The angel says, in order for you to get where you gotta go, you gotta be you. But you are gonna go to jail for 27 years, then come out and run a country. Would you go to the jail? Would you go through it? That's why we don't know. That's why a lot of us are cut off from the future. Because if we saw our future, we'd be too afraid to do anything. So do we have the courage to be ourselves is the first question here, culture. The corporate, you can be whoever you want. Culture, do you have the courage to be you? Yes. I have the courage to be me. So then now you're gonna be homeless, walking around for 5 years, wondering where your next meal is coming from. You're gonna sleep in Central Park, but you will be KRS-One. But first, you gotta sleep on the train for 2 years. First, you gotta have all kind of fights and this, that. If I saw my future, I would not be here right now. There's no way I would be here. I would have cowered, no doubt. And I say that only because here I am. But had the angel come to me when I was 10 years old and said, yes, that dream you have to be an MC, you're gonna be the MC, but all of this is gonna happen. Are you still gonna be you? Are you still gonna walk through it? Are you still gonna go through it? The answer is yes. The answer would have to be yes if you want success in any culture. So having said that, now let me move on. Why do I bring these up? Because these are the new findings in hip hop. One, hip hop, the word, creates realities. See this word more and look for it more, and you will see your opportunity in it more. Hip hop is culture, we just talked about that, and this is important because, again, we ended off with do you have the courage to be you, but the point is really make up your mind who you really want to be. Do you really want to get money, or do you really want to be immortal? Do you really want to be a success on the earth, or do you really do, or do you want to be a universal success? Like, you know, I'm a success in my field, or I'm a success anywhere I go in the world. Let me make that clear. An example is, like, I don't fly myself. I don't fly. I'll fly privately, but I don't fly commercially. I try to stay away from the public in that way. And not because of the public, but because of the incompetence of the people who drive these machines. But I tried hard not to fly or take public transportation, like the train or the bus, like Greyhound and stuff like that. And it adds to my comfort. But I mention that to say that because I don't fly, like to get here to Europe, I took a cruise ship. And we took a cruise ship from Miami to here. Not here, actually from Miami to Barcelona, and got off there. Now, this is a decision, okay? A road manager would say, you are out of your mind. All you gotta do is get on a flight and fly over here, across the pond, as they say. All you gotta do is fly over, and you're here. Why do you need to take 14 days on a cruise ship to get from there, from it's my life? And it's real simple. It's my life. It's the way in which I design myself to be. And you don't get this opportunity today. This is what's called, this is a part of another lecture, but it's called the magical use of the calendar. Just keep that, the magical use of the calendar, where you're on June 1st, and you can look at June 20th and give yourself paradise on June 20th. People don't use the calendar like that at all. They just say, oh, it's this day. But the calendar is your future. You can actually turn the page of the calendar and see your future, like right there, on a piece of paper. And then you can take something and write into your future how you want to live. It's a part of another lecture. But what I'm saying here is that with culture, you are dealing with decisions that have to be made. I make a decision not to fly. It could cost me more, it does cost me more money to travel when you don't travel the way everybody travels. But I made a decision on my life and it works out for me. Those 14 days, I get to write books, I get to write rhymes, I'm hitting the email, I'm doing what I gotta do. Nice, I land, I'm refreshed, I'm ready to do my concerts. Now people say, wow, KRS, he's hopping around the stage. Wow, how does he? Right, I had 14 days of rest. You just 6 hours ago you was in New York. I'm I would be tired too. But these artists, they don't see, they're living their life according to products, even making themselves products in the process. And they would say, okay, well, I'm just gonna fly here. You don't even fly to a place and say, I'm gonna put in my schedule, I'm gonna fly to a place I wanna go. Then from there go to wherever the contract is leading. Most people say, I'm just going wherever the contract is. We're going to Hawaii, why? The contract is there. We're going to France, why? The contract says we're going to France. We're going to Africa, why? Because the contract. No one says, you know, I want to go to Lisbon, Portugal, but the contract says get to France, but I want to get to Portugal. So fine, I'll get to France somehow. I'll give myself 2 weeks as opposed to 2 days. And you'll be surprised that when you open your consciousness to say, this is the way my life goes, the resources to back up the life just come. And I want y'all to look at this for real because it's real. It's real. I used to live in an apartment that cost $625 a month. $625 a month in Brooklyn. Clarendon Road and Avenue D in Brooklyn. And $625. The apartment was great, but one day I went to Manhattan. I said, I should be living in Manhattan. Manhattan's all eyes, you know, the lights and the cameras. And better housing. So the housing in Manhattan was $3,200 a month. Now, I'm spending $625, it's like in the 80s, I'm spending $625, but that's what my consciousness knew. By the way, I had Criminal Minded out, I'm doing tours, we running around, but my consciousness still got me in a $625 apartment. I go down and meet a friend somewhere, he got to spread out loft space, top floor in Manhattan, overlooking the Trade Center. I'm like, yo, what's up? He said, yo, it's like $1,500 right here, it's like $1,700. I'm like, what? Consciousness. Consciousness. So then I went, it's not that I couldn't afford it, this is my point. It's not that I couldn't afford it, it was my consciousness kept me on a certain level. And when I finally rose up to a certain level, everything else came to match it. I thought everything had to match it first before I could rise to the level. No, what happened was I rose to the level and everything matched. That's what this is. When you start saying words like MCing, and then start looking for it. Open up a dictionary, look for it. Look for it. Look for it every way you can. It'll start showing. Anything will, by the way. Anything will. Anything. Say the word Gibaga. Gibaga. If you keep saying Gibaga, 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 eventually Gibaga is going to appear. Guaranteed. So you gotta think about what you think about. Think about what you think about. That thinking creates your culture. Now we're talking about hip hop, and the thinking of hip hop is what creates its culture. This is where we come up with our elements and all of this from. And like I said, culture has to do with making a decision, whether you're gonna be corporate, whether you're gonna be community, has to do with a decision based on, do you have the courage to be yourself? Can you face the consequences of your own success? These are the things that hold people back, not whether your rhymes is whack or you can't cut and scratch. That never pushed anybody forward or backwards. What pushes you forward is character. And this is where I'd like to end this discussion and take some real questions now. Is character. And I come down here for character because this is where hip hop's character is most likely judged. It's judged in its products. Hip hop's consciousness is never judged. Its culture is never judged. It's always the products. What we look like on TV. What certain albums say, or how well, both men and women and children are depicted in some hip hop products. This is real because if we don't speak up for the culture, and if we don't put our voices forward, then hip hop will look like MTV's presentation of us in world history. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And that's a sad state of affairs. that would be a sad state of affairs if the history of hip hop became what MTV thought it was. Lowercase h, lowercase I, lowercase p dash, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase p, totally denying our sovereignty and ability to unite as a community. Anytime you spell hip hop in lowercase letters or refer to it only as a product, you deny the culture and the consciousness behind the culture. This is how MTV depicts our culture. Every day, all day. This is how they do it. Every day, all day. This is right here. As a true scholar of hip hop, you can't allow that. You can't allow it. As a true scholar of hip hop, this is exactly what your job is, to correct the ignorance that hip hop is being portrayed as. Not just writing about the history, protect the culture. Not just, yo, dude got a fly rhyme. Yo, no, judge the rhyme against the forward movement of the culture. And that's not just to say everybody got a rhyme about, consciousness, and everybody, hip hop ain't that. Hip hop is the voice of the people, all of the people. The sad part is that mainstream radio only seems to want to play only one voice, because that's what they feel about black youth intelligence to begin with, that all of us should be locked up in jail anyway. So that's what they're gonna pick out to play in mainstream media. And we're not the only ones going through this. In the United States, again, Italians are treated the same way. The Irish are treated the same way. This idea of I can take your culture and turn it into some kind of farce and make money on it. And they got a show called The Sopranos, where The Sopranos, is a great show. People like the show, but real Italians are like, that's not my culture. That doesn't represent what Italy is really all about. But you let the average person see it, that, oh, The Sopranos, word, I know Italian because I know Joey so-and-so. Hip hop is going through the same thing. As long as we allow MTV and BET and VH1 and all these people to present our cultures their way, then our heritage, what our children reach back on, what we in an older age reach back on, will be mush. It'll be nothing. And why is it nothing? Because we've allowed these corporations to reduce us just to products. When we had the chance to speak and think, we didn't. We was just interested in getting money and having a good time and blah, blah, blah. And that's what happened to all the other music genres as well. That's what happened. Hip hop is self-conscious. That's why we're in this room right now. We don't just make music, we make culture. And this is what this is all about. So now, and I was going to end on this point, I didn't even get to it. But I'll get to it and go into it. Let me get a count on my, that's a big gun you got there. What's my time like? 25. Yeah? Good. That's just enough time to bring this down. I touched a little bit on the economics of hip hop. I want to stay on that. No one in hip hop should be broke or poor. No one. Hip hop is a $1 billion industry to this day, to this very day. Hip hop, like I said, is no longer an entertainment pastime. Hip hop is lifetime employment. The first thing I mentioned was about DJing. And I said, really, and seriously, your grandparents can be DJs. College students looking to pay back that college loan should become DJs while in school. Because if you start as a freshman and become a DJ in that year, guarantee you put 2 years in the DJ, and by the time you're that sophomore or whatever, or graduating, you've given yourself a skill over 4 years that when you graduate, Not only does your degree, hopefully your degree works for you, but you've also now presented yourself as a DJ over those 4 years. While you are freshman, put your name down as DJ so-and-so right at the top of your classes. Put yourself online DJing. This is your unique mix. This is how you get the party started. Try to get local parties and get yourself recorded like that. That's what we should be doing as students. 4 years go by of that. And by the time you leave college, you leave with a degree and you leave with a skill that is worth $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a pop. Do I have to mention names like Afrojack and Calvin Harris and DJ Premier and Marley Marl and these people, they're touring on turntables. But because we don't see this word enough, we don't have it enough in our heads. Say it, be it, do it. We don't see the opportunity, but those of us who live hip hop for real, we don't even see the world without it. I can't imagine. How else would I be in Rotterdam if it wasn't for hip hop? Think about that. Seriously. How would I be here if it was not for this? I look for this. This has a network. Let's go for it. I give this analogy all the time, so I'm going to be quick with it, but this is about the economics of hip-hop. Hip-hop is a human skill. Take it in. Hip-hop is a human skill. It is the first thing that humanity did. It's the first thing that we did. It was breaking, MCing, graffiti. In other words, we danced, we spoke, we did art, both rock art, cave art, and what we today call cutting, mixing, and scratching. If you apply that to anthropology or paleoanthropology, cutting, mixing, and scratching makes clothing, fire, and houses. The same thing we did with the turntable, the manipulation of existing materials to express our consciousness is what ancient humans did. Hip-hop is innate to us, to humanity. There's also a genetic explanation to hip-hop as well, which I'm not going to get into, but there's a guy called Dr. Bruce Lipton, if you remember his name, Dr. Bruce Lipton. He talks about the consciousness of cells and how whatever you're doing as a total human body, it's because your cells are doing it first. And if your cells are doing it, that means it's innate to humanity. You have to be in the right environment in order to turn on certain cells. And it just so happens that you gotta ask yourself, why are only certain human beings attracted to hip hop? All African Americans are attracted to hip hop, all Asians, all Africans, all Europeans, all people are not attracted to hip hop. Only a certain group are attracted. Certain Latinos, certain Arabs, certain black people, only certain. Why is that? Why? How is this? Some people can see boom, boom, back, boom, 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 back, and they hide and scared. Like, oh God. Another person is like, yo, that's Mahabdi. What makes a person gravitate toward one thing while the other one shuns away? It's genetic. And I'm not going to get into it here because my last 35 minutes, but this is more research for you to do. Look at Dr. Bruce Lipton. Look at genetic research in general and some of the things they're finding out about how the human genome reacts to its environment, how the body adapts to the pressures of the environment to create what it does. And when we were trapped in New York, in the Bronx, our genes turned on in an ancient way to create these elements, which happen to also be the original expressions of humanity itself. This is no coincidence. To be able, hip hop, to be aware of your movement, to be hip to your movement, to know why you move. This is spirituality, it's the depth of it right here. Now, having said that, the economics. Hip hop is a human skill. Hip hop is a human skill. Human skills are human resources, they're capital. If you can master any of the elements of hip hop, you will live a life in peace and prosperity over the next 20 years. Mark my words on this. Why? Here's the politics. Since 9/11, 2001, the church has lost power. The church is out of here. The idea of civilization being ran by church and state is over. What has happened was the world has gone back to its original order, which is what everyone's calling the New World Order. The New World Order is not new at all. It's actually the order, the preceding order before the church put down a New World Order. With the removal of the church, you get the original order, which wasn't all that hype either. It wasn't all that good either. But you get this order that is based on science and trade, or basically science and commerce. The movement of goods, created goods. Culture creates science. DXT taught us that. Culture creates science. I'll say it again. Culture, trying to figure itself out, creates science. Science creates products. Products create trade. With the church out of the way now, or beginning to decline, the ideas like the rights of man are out of here too. Ideas like the Constitution are out of here too. The ideas like the state is protecting you from XYZ, that's out of here. I wouldn't be surprised in the near future if some major country was not invaded, like the United States, or like India, so actually we could actually live in a time when you turn on the TV and it says, yo, China is on the beach of Brooklyn and Coney Island and no one knows what to do. You could actually live in something like that, during these times. Yo, turn on the TV, yo, India is being overrun by blah, blah, blah. And you're like, wow, they're actually invading the country. People are fighting, civil war. Wow, we never thought China would. We always thought Japan was. And Japan wants an army now too. I mean, it's like, now the church is gone, is the point. And with the church gone, it reverts back to the way it was, which was global trade, free trade. Before the church got involved, before Rome got involved, you was based on, your humanity was based on what you could trade. Some people like to go back and talk about if you didn't own land, you was considered a slave or a renter, they have terms for this, the feudal system. You didn't own land, you was on somebody else's land, you rented the land, you did this kind of thing. This is different now. This is way different. Now it's, what is your skill? This is no more white, no more black, no more culture. Because commerce could care less about culture. What's your skill? You're gonna notice more and more people, or more and more leaders, start talking more and more entrepreneur. We have to become more entrepreneurial. We have to think for ourselves, and we have to think why? Because the state no longer protects you. Because now that concept of the church, state, protection of the weak, who speaks for the unspeakable, who holds up the weary, that all that philosophy is gone. Now if you don't have a skill, this is where you'll get hauled off into, well, back in the days it was called slavery, today it's called the criminal justice system. So you'll be hauled off into that, somehow maneuvered into that. You think 12 years a slave was just a coincidence that it came out now? Why now? Why? Yeah, why? Huh? No, 12 years a slave. I don't know if that movie's out now. Yeah. It's here, right? Why now? And he said 12 years after. Yeah, no, I'm saying, right, 12 years after 9/11, yeah. It's interesting. Wow, you came to a revelation on that one. But why now? But it's interesting. Why now? And why only show that period of American history? During that same time, more African revolts were going on in the South and in the North than any time in American history. People were fighting. They just showed this one black man trying to get free. I was playing the fiddle, and I got drugged by some white dudes, and then I'm a slave, and I can't get out. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like, to really show that, and I think the film was great. I gotta say that the film was great, the acting was great, but African Americans in particular have become so numb to slavery. Like, it's like if you believe you're a slave, if you know you're being oppressed, you'll fight for your freedom. But if you don't even know you're a slave, you don't even think about fighting for your freedom. You don't even think about it. 12 Years a Slave comes on, black woman on the tree getting beat, and we applaud it. Black woman on the tree getting beat savagely, and we applauding it. We gave an Oscar. Closing piece right here. Third closing. There is a spiritual component to this. There is a spiritual component to it. It takes longer to discuss here, but this is our only real salvation, really. Because what I was saying about 12 Years a Slave is we don't have empathy for our own struggle. You know, the church is dead. The church is what gave, or at least the church is what tried to instill empathy. The church tried to instill love. The church tried to instill justice, a sense of justice. These things did not exist before the church. Now, come on, let's talk. Let's talk for real. Yes, there was order in Cush. Thousands of years before Rome even thought about an R. The Phoenicians had order. The Egyptians had order. But that order was for them. Everybody else outside of Ethiopia, outside of Egypt, outside of Cush, you was getting the end of the blade. If you was Ethiopian, you was good. If you was Egyptian during whatever dynasty, you was good. If you was from ancient Cush, you was good. But if you was one of those wandering tribes that didn't join anything, you just had a big family, y'all been on the same land for thousands of years, this is how you do it. Now you getting run over. Run over. Why do I bring this up? Because we're in the same situation again. History doesn't repeat itself. It repeats the conditions that creates history. History, time, is waves, pulsating. Pulsating, it's circular. That's why I say it seems like time repeats itself. Time is not really repeating itself. It's the energy, it's the seasons that keep repeating. These massive cosmic seasons that gives Earth and Earth's people the option to either do the same thing again, or do it better, or don't do it at all. This is history, real history. How time repeats in cyclical patterns. Here we are again, hip hop. We are civilization builders. We look just like the Iberians. Do some research on these names. Iberians off the coast of the Mediterranean. The Romans called those people that. But those people were Greeks and Phoenicians and Berbers, and there was all kind of people just trading with one another. And the Greeks said those are going to be called Iberians. There was all kind of people in the west of Europe. They said those are Visigoths. The Berbers were already in Spain from 298 AD, 298. But the number we get is 7/11, the Moorish invasion of Spain, and they called it Al-Andalus and 7/11. And that's the surface history. They were there from 298. People were always together, trading, chilling with each other, doing stuff. Then somebody wants to come and take over the trade route. Here comes the MTV. Here comes the RCA records. Here comes the Universal. Here comes something that wants to take over the prosperity of indigenous innovations. That's what it is. So here we are again. Here we are again. And now we call ourselves hip-hop. Intelligent movement, hip-hop. But if we keep ourselves just on the level of music, then we gotta wait another 2,600 years for this to happen again. Remember the Mayan calendar? The movie 2012? We supposed to be dead, right? The earth was supposed to crack in two and we was all gonna die. Well, here we are, many years later. But what happens, because the earth didn't crack in two, no one regards the Mayan prophecy anymore. There was more to the story. There was a lot more to the story. And the story was that during this alignment, that alignment that went down on December 21st, 2012, a new culture was supposed to be born on that day. This culture, they said, wouldn't be born on that day. It would start in 1973. But of course that has nothing to do with hip hop. Of course. It just so happens that when I wrote the gospel of hip hop and put it forward in 2009, I was made aware by a journalist that going into the new millennium, when we went into December 21st, 2012, which was supposed to actually mark the new millennium, that the gospel of hip hop was the only spiritual book written during that time. I didn't think of it that way. It was just published when I finished it. But when you look at astronomical time and you look at the symbolism of what's being released at what time, the Gospel of Hip Hop is the only book that was actually released as a new spiritual path, urban spiritual path. People say, what the hell is KRS doing? He's trying to start a religion. Oh, he's doing da. And it might be right. They all may be right. The issue is time. I don't need to start a religion today. That's not how that started. The people themselves energized a new spiritual thought based on new words and new realities. We don't need to go through anybody anymore to see God. Science and commerce are atheistic in nature. And atheism is not bad either. I advise you to get some really good books on atheism. There's some really hot stuff out right now. Really. I just have too much evidence for the existence of God in my own life. I love the atheist argument, but I know that God exists. I don't have a faith in God. This after a while, you just become intelligent. Like after a while, too much things be happening. You just be like, okay, you know what? This is what it's going to be. But not everybody has those experiences because the word God even, that's not even God's name. But if you don't even have that word in your mouth or on your mind every day, if you wake up in the morning, the first thing you grab is your phone, and not some sort of a holy book or whatever you believe, your ancestors even, a picture of grandma, a picture of dad, somebody, you got to look at that first when you wake up and let that be the last thing you see before you go to sleep. These are the things that open your mind. Control your mind, control what you see and what you think is real. If you let the government tell you real is just 9 to 5 work and you die. That's it. That's real to the government. And that's for people who don't use their mind. There's a saying that says, if you don't use your mind, somebody else is going to use it for you. So when we teach here in hip hop, in this instance, on the spiritual front, this is what we have lost, and we lost it for good reason. Here's the good reason. One, if you take just the Bible, you can take the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, you can take the Bhagavad Gita, the 5 baskets of Buddha, most of the Eastern religions. These are all religions created by black people out of Africa, black Africans, calling themselves different stuff. All of this. But what did we do with each and everything that was created? Each and everything. We threw it to the floor. We gave it away. We disrespected it. We didn't pay attention to the prophets that came to teach it. This is out of Africa first. This is not Europeans. This is not Asians, Arabs. This is before all that. When we had the knowledge to ourselves, we disregarded it and threw it away. And the same thing happened like with the Greeks as well. We threw away Egyptian knowledge. Don't think that all Africans were there studying under the Pharaoh saying this is something good. No, people laughed at the Pharaoh. People laughed and scorned at Egyptian knowledge. It was the Greeks that actually said, oh man, this is something worthy of having. Let's at least try to learn. Now the Romans would come in and start wilding out and doing their thing. But at the end of the day, these people were first admired by other cultures. And this is important to bring up in terms of spirituality. When a black man stands up, and really back in the days it was black women that were standing up. But when a black man stands up and says, yo, here's how we gotta go. It's his own people that look to kill him first. This too is in history. And what happens? Dude got to leave his culture and go over to Europe, go over to Asia, go over to these places and teach whole other populations the truth. Then those populations say, yo, that black dude right there is the truth. But then he gets buried off into history because his students are of the culture. So the students become the ones to say, okay, now here's what we're going to do with the knowledge. We're going to go and take over their land with it. I mean, imagine gunpowder was created by Asians. Asians in there with gunpowder. The minute Europeans get a hold of it, it becomes the gun. Asians had it for 1,000 years. Gunpowder. Never thought about making a gun. They never thought about a bomb. Never did none of that. The minute somebody come in and say, yo, I know what to do with that. Same gunpowder took over China. Same gunpowder thrown at the Philippines. Same gunpowder took over, became the atomic bomb, took over all of Japan. Same concept. So hip hop we have an ability to correct the wrongs of our parents. This is the karmic piece. That no matter what culture, what color, race, you from. If you understand hip-hop, not only do you correct human history, you actually correct it with your presence. Because what is human history? Human history is we all stepping out of Africa, really. And Africa's not even the name of Africa. Just that landmass where the first humans come stepping up upright. We're all one people. And hip-hop teaches that. We all one people, different shades, different languages, but we're really all one people. And that's how you cannot speak English but understand hip-hop. You don't have to understand all the lyrics to understand what I'm saying. Or you see somebody popping, dancing, they don't have to say anything, but they're communicating with you. Because this is a human community. This is one of the ancient communities that have come back again. So having said that, the karma is correct the wrongs of your parents. Those who know their parents were racist, be the opposite today. Those who know their parents sold out revolutionary movements. You got a lot of black people walking around, yeah, I'm down here, but you're walking with a karma given to you from your parents. And what was the karma of your parents? When Dr. King was speaking, you wasn't listening. Change that. Change it. One of the things we talk about all the time is a dude named, there's a group called Third Base. 2 white dudes and a black dude. And MC Serge, you know, is the man, actually. Anywhere he goes, he gets respect. He's a white Jewish dude, but his rhymes is dope. And he also mentions all the time about how hip-hop is the only culture where the I Have a Dream speech is actually manifested. Like, this is the only place where you are judged by the content of your character, not the color of your skin. Like, this is the only place. African Americans still got a problem. White folks still got a problem. Africans got a problem. Jamaicans, Haitians, Latino community, Native American, you name it. India, Pakistan, this one, Iraq. Everybody got a problem with everybody. But hip hop, all these competing races, cultures, ethnicities, everybody understands hip hop. Everybody understands it and meets here. This is the manifestation of something huge, and there's a karma attached to it. There's a justice attached to it. And the justice is correct your father's mistakes, correct your mother's mistakes in hip hop. If your mother was, you know, not the greatest mother, why don't you try to be? It seems simple, like, yeah, well, that's what I am trying to be. Nah. Really do it from the point of view that you're correcting a generational curse. Do it from the perspective that I'm doing this because I know I'm breaking something off my children and myself. This is where salvation is. God only comes to the downtrodden, the people that nobody wants to help. That's hip hop. Everybody says, oh, God is, you know, God always comes to the needy. Always know that when you say hip hop, they, well, not hip hop. I didn't mean that. No, if you really look at it, hip hop is the cleanest. Actually, wow, if you really look at it, hip hop has no blood on its hands. Every other religious thought on the planet has blood on its hands. Hip hop is truly innocent because we're not free. If we were free like everybody else, then God could judge us because you're free. But if we're not free, and we are not, we don't own our own land, we don't have our own government, we don't pass our own currency, we're not free. So therefore, because we're not free, we become innocent before God. No religion can doubt that. The slave master is not going to be judged like the slave. A God of justice ain't doing that. You mean to tell me you're free? You have land, religion, banking system. You can do whatever you want. You was privileged, and you still disobey God? In this little box over here. But what if my hands were tied behind my back? I wasn't even taught to read or write. I was born into a situation where he was trying to lock me up from the time I was born. You don't think the sovereign mind of the universe don't see that? And don't see the justice coming on that too? The universe corrects itself. Forget man's laws. Nature will correct itself. And who is nature trying to create? Well, the ones that don't have. The ones that are left out. This is what makes hip-hop unique in its time as a spiritual thought, because everybody else got blood on their hands except the innocent. This is the true innocent. The oppressed are always the innocent. No God, no Bible, no judgment, no Quran, no Torah. Nobody's book can judge the oppressed. Once you know your oppression is real, God is looking to help you and get you out. And you cannot be judged until you are free. So until we're free, this is the best time for most spiritual people to adopt hip-hop as their spiritual practice, because hip-hop is clean and innocent before God. That's real. That's real. This is innocent. This is innocent. Every urban area on the globe is governed by hip-hop. I'll say it again. Every urban area on the globe, every city, got graffiti, breaking, MCs, DJs in it. And that's what the people trust too, by the way. That's what the people communicate through too, by the way. Yes, there's other things. There are other cultures, and people do come from other places and set up shop. But out of all the cultures, all the professions that a city offers, hip-hop is part of all of them. Imagine if we united and said we are all hip-hop globally. There'd be no more war in the earth. We're the army. The people at the club, the people coming to the Milkway this weekend will be part of government. I just got the day off. What you doing? What's the KRS One? Yeah. So imagine if we can unite and say, no, our culture is about peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. We don't want any more corporate takeover of culture, which is how wars began. Corporate takeover of cultural resource. That's the war right there. There's nothing else to it. That's what it is. We don't want no more corporate takeover. Why? Because hip-hop is now running the corporations. No, there's nothing wrong with running a corporation. Just understand that the culture is the skin of it. Understand that we govern by principles, and believe it or not, that's why Walmart is so big. People look at Walmart all the time. They govern by principles. Certain business and commerce principles. They stick with their principles, they're successful. The Vatican didn't stick with its principles, that's why it's not successful. Hip-hop can be successful if we stick with our principles. This is my time right here, exactly 5 o'clock. So in closing.
That one is wrong, it's 6 o'clock.
Oh, you let me go all the way to 6. Wow, you just played me right there. What I wanted to do was take questions. Can I squeeze a few questions in?
Yeah, for sure.
This, understand what it is that we were talking about here today. We're talking about hip-hop on a consciousness level and how to live the culture. This is no longer an entertainment pastime. If you see hip-hop, and if this becomes your affirmation, you will see more opportunities in it. And we talked about how and culture products. Make sure you spell hip-hop with a capital H as well. It is a proper noun, that's why I spelled it in this way. Try to stay away from this spelling unless you are talking about products, rap music, and so on. I do want to pass around a piece of paper so I can get email addresses. We do have an apprenticeship course that I can get into a little later on. But while I'm in Europe during this time, if those are MCs, DJs, or managers, or security, engineers for sound, we do open up an apprenticeship course as well. We get to go on a few dates with us, as a matter of fact, to learn the deeper aspects of really how to live hip-hop out. There's contracts to look at, riders to look at, how the business is actually done, so you can actually live the life that you actually want to live. Those that want to know more about that, give me your email address, and don't write graffiti, please. Well, actually you can if I can understand it, but please write in a standard style so that, because I might not be the one that's taking it off of the paper. You're gonna hook me up with that, yeah? Good looking. Okay, come on, let's go right into Q&A. Questions on anything.
Geef die man eerst eventjes een applaus, ja?
Nice. These are the breaks. I just got that. Questions?
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Yeah. What do you think about the little children
Say again?
What do you think about the little changes between 6 years and 12 years, where they will be in the future, about 10 years? What the hip-hop scene can transfer over to them? Because, what do you think? Because they are very important.
You know, absolutely. One of the future ideas we're looking at was, many of us are talking about buying land and starting a hip-hop party town. Now you may ask, what does that have to do with, you know, the youth and actually in this sense? I'm always interested in setting up foundations for living. And when you talk about what can hip-hop offer in the future, what you know, we have to think about stability and security. How is a person able to raise a family within hip-hop? How can a person pursue higher knowledge living hip-hop? Say you a DJ, MC, or whatever. How do you really live it out? Part of that is answered by having your own space carved out somewhere where at least the young people have jobs, they have purpose, they have schooling and things they can go to in our own situation. The adults can go out of our city, so to speak, and tour and do whatever to sustain the city and bring money in. But when you talk about you know, heritage is really what you're, I mean, what are we leaving behind? How can we actually move forward? I start basically with a city. It seems like a big idea, but it's really not. It starts with like a party town. It starts with just one little area saying the businesses and the residents agree that we're going to call this place hip hop.
Let me rephrase my question this
Yes.
way. I don't mean the basic thing, a house, the normal ethic things that you have to give to the child, the mother, father, but I mean the hip hop, because they look television, and most of the time you see things on the television from Park, Mother, you know,
Oh, you mean
I mean the hip hop because they look in the hip hop.
Okay.
You understand?
No, but wait a minute now, so rephrase the question. Based on the TV, based on the television, you're saying what can hip hop do there?
Yeah, because we're looking at that, and YouTube, you have a lot of things.
Right.
And the little children say are important.
You know, it's funny you mentioned YouTube because there's a lot on hip hop on YouTube that's not what is presented.
You know what I mean? Okay.
Right. There's a lot presented. Your question is complicated because how do you get youth to look at what is useful for them in hip hop? Because on YouTube, there's a bunch of stuff you can look at, but you know, kids gravitate toward what kids gravitate toward. That's a complicated question. There, you were talking about literacy. Was that? I don't know if within your question you had mentioned something about literacy. I don't know if I heard you correctly. Probably not. No, I'm probably thinking something else. Yeah, thank you for that. Questions?
Well, I'm going to be 40 next year, so I was listening to the Boogie Down Productions, Public Enemy, Big Daddy Cool, KRS, and all that stuff, and I never heard like unclean hip hop with N-words and B-words and things like that, and I think that he is talking about that thing too. So the whole change that took place within that becoming commercial, or some part of it becoming commercial, and how do you see the change? How do you see it yourself? And how can we guide youth to see not only that part, so the suppressed feeling and being frustrated and carrying that out into your lyrics and songs and acting and things like that. So the superficial stuff is coming up real hard right now. So everybody wants to have chains and cars and Jordans and as hip hop and things like that. How can we be part of helping each other or the youth within that? Or how do you see that?
You know, this is like I said, and I think I did understand the question, but it's complicated. Let's get into the complication. Here's a complication. What you are saying is hip hop isn't really hip hop. The hip hop that you're referring to, what our kids, what we all are seeing on television, is not hip hop. Now, of course, we can argue that here and say we know that hip hop is more than what is being presented on the TV, but the kids don't know that. They're just watching the TV, they say this is rap, this is what's being called hip hop, and it looks like something irresponsible and even dangerous to get involved in. How do we change that? How do we deal with that? Now, this is where it becomes complicated, because kids don't know technically what it is they're seeing. Adults know because we have more knowledge. The kid begins to look at what they see and say, this makes me feel strong. This makes me feel popular. This makes me feel, this makes me feel secure. That's what child psychologists will say. Find something within themselves, self-esteem, fear, a sense of belonging, something like that. But they don't know that the rapper is saying, you bitches, get your hands up. The kid doesn't understand all of that. It's the adults that understand that what you're watching may be offensive to your development. The adults know that. Now, this is what's complicated, because every kid has to go through a rites of passage. It's just human psychology. You don't even feel alive unless you've had some hardship in your life. The way kids are getting it today is through the TV. The way young girls, which I think the television is having more of an impact on young girls than on young men, because at least a young man, you watch the TV, you see somebody blow somebody away with a gun or walk around with juice. Guys are more apt to say, well, hey, I'm not doing that, and going to jail. Like, you know, we know the consequences quickly with that. But when women are on television parading themselves around irresponsibly, the young girl begins to believe that this is what I have to aspire to be in order to be powerful, to feel beautiful, to be attractive, even to succeed in society. This is how I have to dress. This is how I have to speak. This is how I have to present myself. And it hurts the women, I think, more the way hip hop is being depicted, but now more complication. There are women executives that are programming the stations. It's women that are telling women, well, lift that skirt up just a little higher. You know what these men want. You know, that bitch thinks she crazy. And you don't really think about it like, you know, you moms talking to your girlfriends and your young little son is there. You're like, could you believe what this bitch told me? I told you how. She better get me. And your little son is right there. Now, you just talking adults, but this is where we learn it from. We learn it from moms. We learn it from women executives. Men only follow women, believe it or not. People like to think that women follow men. It is not. That's not anthropology. That's not psychology. No, none of the books say that. The books say that women lead. And if the woman is corrupt in a family, the whole family falls. In a natural situation, women can take care of all the children. One woman is man and woman. Men are just men. And so, and I have to say, I have to put men down in that way. But I say this to say, the power of women is really, it's complicated, because that's what has to be harnessed. And that's what has to become more responsible, is how women approach themselves, and then how that image is presented to children. So that's why I say it's not so easy to just say, you know, our children are watching this stuff on TV and now they want to go out and be it. In one breath, they kind of have to be, or they're not going to. The world today is so sterile. No one's getting hurt, and not that you have to be, but like, there's no bumping into nobody has a challenge. There's